The stories you are about to hear are not for the faint-hearted. Discretion is advised. At number 9, we have Ted Bundy. You don't have to be American or have been around in the 1970s to know the name Ted Bundy. Bundy is easily one of the most deranged serial killers, not to mention kidnappers, rapists, and burglars of all time. His 6 sadistic ways included kidnapping his female victims, sexually assaulting them, and dismembering them. He often kept their heads as souvenirs. Before he was executed in 1989, Bundy admitted to kidnapping and murdering 30 women, though this number is almost certainly much higher. At number 8, we have Andrei Chikatilo. Chikatilo was a Soviet serial killer nicknamed the Butcher of Rostov, the Red Ripper, and the Rostov Ripper, who sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990. Chikatilo confessed to 56 murders and was tried for 53 of these killings in April 1992. He was convicted and sentenced to death for 52 of these murders in October 1992. Although the Supreme Court of Russia ruled in 1993 that insufficient evidence existed to prove Chikatilo's guilt in 9 of these murders, Chikatilo was subsequently executed in February 1994. At number 7, we have Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Melloway Cannibal or the Melloway Monster. He was an American serial killer and sex offender who committed the murder and dismemberment of 17 men and boys from 1978 to 1991. Many of his later murders involved necrophilia, cannibalism. He also kept some of the body parts, typically all or part of the skeleton. Although he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, and psychotic disorder, Dahmer was found to be legally sane at his trial. He was convicted of 15 of the 60 murders he had committed in Wisconsin and was sentenced to 15 terms of life imprisonment on February 15, 1992. Dahmer was later sentenced to a 16-term life imprisonment for additional homicide committed in Ohio in 1978. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution. Number 6, we have Hamilton Howard Fish, also known as Albert Fish. He was an American serial killer, child rapist, and cannibal. He was also known as the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, the Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, and the Boogeyman. Fish once boasted that he had children in every state, and at one time stated his number of victims was about 100. However, it is not known whether he was referring to rapes or cannibalization, nor is it known if the statement was truthful. Fish was a suspect in at least 5 murders during his lifetime. He confessed to 3 murders that police were able to trace to a known homicide, and he has confessed to stabbing at least 2 other people. At number 5, we have John Wayne Gacy. He was an American serial killer and sex offender known as the Killer Clown, who assaulted and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. Gacy regularly performed at children's hospitals and charitable events as Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown, personas he had devised. He was also active in his local community as a precinct captain and building contractor. According to Gacy, all his murders were committed inside his ranch house near Norridge, a village in Norwood Park, Chicago. He would typically lure a victim to his home, deceive him into putting on handcuffs with the intention of demonstrating a magic trick, then sexually assault and torture his captive before killing him by strangulation with a wire or cord. 26 victims were buried in the crawl spaces of his home. 3 others were buried elsewhere on his property, and the last 4 were discarded in the Des Plaines River. At number 4, we have Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper was an unidentified serial killer active in the large poverty-stricken areas in and around the Whitechapel district of London in 1888. In both the criminal case files and contemporary journalistic accounts, the killer was called the Whitechapel Murderer and the Leather Apron. Attacks referred to Jack the Ripper typically involved female prostitutes who lived and worked in the slums of the East End of London, whose throats were cut prior to abdominal mutilations. The removal of internal organs from at least 3 of the victims led to proposals that their killer had some surgical knowledge. Rumors that the murders were connected intensified in September and October in 1888, and numerous letters were received by media outlets and Scotland Yard from individuals reporting to be the murderer. The name Jack the Ripper originated in a letter written by a person claiming to be the murderer that was announced in the media. At number 3, we have Joachim Kroll. He was a Western German serial killer, child molester, and cannibal. He was known as the Ruhr Cannibal, Ruhr Hunter, and the Duisburg Man. He was convicted of 8 murders but confessed to a total of 14, which he committed in and around the Ruhr metropolitan region. At number 2, we have Pedro Alonso Lopez. He's a Colombian serial killer who was sentenced for killing 110 girls, but who claimed to have sexually assaulted and killed more than 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, aside from uncited local accounts. Lopez's crimes first received international attention from an interview by Ron Lautner, a longtime freelance photojournalist, who reported interviewing Lopez in his prison cell in 1980. Lopez became known as the Monster of the Andes in 1980 when he led police to 53 graves in Ecuador. The victims were all girls, 12 years of age. At number 1, we have Ricardo Ramirez. He was an American serial killer, serial rapist, and burglar. His highly publicized home invasion crime spree terrorized the residents of the greater Los Angeles area and later the residents of the San Francisco area from June 1984 until August 1985. Prior to his capture, Ramirez was dubbed the Night Stalker by the news media. He used a wide variety of weapons, including handguns, knives, a machete, a tire iron, and a hammer. Ramirez, who claimed to be a Satanist, never expressed any remorse for his crimes. The judge who upheld Ramirez's 19th death sentences marked that his deeds exhibited cruelty, callous, and viciousness beyond any human understanding. Ramirez died while awaiting execution on California's death row